Building and pest reports. What are they and why do you need them as a buyer or a seller before you start advertising your property? We are joined by Sabeen Akbani from Before You Bid. Hello, Sabeen.
Hi, Sabeen.
Hi, everyone. And everyone, how are you guys? Zoom these days.
Yeah, good. So this is the second time round that we've got you on our Paris and Baz cast.
Yep.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Lots is changing with your business as well. So with Before You Bid. So tell us a little bit about the business and your role.
Yeah, sure. So Before You Bid, we've been in business for about 6 years now. We are a platform of different inspectors, about 300 inspectors, and we're a national company, and we use shared cost models for building pest reports, strata reports, pool inspections. We also link to real estate agents' website and also integrate with your CRM and help you qualify your buyers, etc. So there's a lot more to it, but the main business is definitely building pest and strata reports. And so my role is business growth director for basically just look at the revenue side of it and sales side of it. And my favorite thing, building and pest reports and strata reports.
Absolutely. And they are so important these days. And the speed of getting these can make or break your sale, as we were talking about.
Yeah, I think main part of my role is also to educate, and I'm not saying you guys are not in that space, but the concept wasn't there when I started. And so I believe genuinely that my role is to educate agents in why is this, better for you. And that leads to educating buyers and vendors at the same time in why you should have one ready. If you're a vendor, if you're ready to sell your house, why is it good to have one ready for your buyers? And how is it easier for the buyers and general public to just have a report ready to see whether they're confident enough to go ahead with the sale.
Yeah.
In turn, makes it simple for the agent.
100%. As we were talking offline last week, we had a deal which we're going to take to auction. We had the building report ready and we got it over the line now.
And so 66W.
It's a 66W, so we didn't have to have any cooling off period. So it definitely works.
Yeah, I think, and I've got a real life example. A friend of mine, they're looking at wanting to upgrade to having their second baby, etc. And they really shortlisted 2 properties, and one agent did not have a report ready, but the other one did. And they literally had interest in both properties equally. So they actually went ahead with the one which had the report ready, because more confidence, you need to know where you're putting your money in. You can't just go and buy something and you have no idea. For a strata report, you have no idea how many levies or funds and, when was the last AGM minute done. Or for building and pest report, you don't know. You can look at the ceiling and be like, oh, this looks great, but then you have no idea what's happening internally unless you look at a report.
Yeah, and also with the market being the hot as it is, basically, if you look at multiple properties, you don't have to purchase multiple reports, which can become a pretty expensive exercise.
Exactly.
So
I think it speeds up your process as well as an agent. And for a buyer, smooth process for them if you've got one ready, because they can just quickly go to the next step and decide what they want to do. If you don't have one, then the buyer's just going to go get their own anyway. As John McGrath says, that get one done. If you don't, then the buyers are going to go get their own educated ones. So the educated buyers are going to go do their due diligence and then come back to you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 2 sides. So we've got the buyers. So talk about the Before You Bid model for the buyers, the advantages for them, and then we'll talk about the sellers as well. So as a buyer, just give me a recap of what the service is.
Yeah. So look, obviously, as a buyer, the benefit in going through us is through the vendor cost model that we have, which is kind of shared cost. So the vendor shares the amount, and as well as the buyer, which means vendor puts a little bit of deposit, and we make it easier for the buyers to download the report. So in saying that, if you're a buyer, you're not looking at one property, you're doing your due diligence with every 5-6 properties that you're looking at, and you're out of pockets thousands of dollars and you're not even successful in buying them. With us, you can pay a little bit of deposit, download the report, have a look, and if you're successful, that's the only time you pay the full amount. So that's the benefit to the buyers, because you do save money, and obviously you're doing your due diligence ready without. So cooling off period these days, like literally 5 days. 5 days with COVID, strata report takes longer than
Yeah.
5 days sometimes. So if you've got one ready, you need to, it's actually, it works in your favor as an agent as well as the vendor, because you're selling it quicker. I think there are some buyers who would say, look, we want to get our own, which is fine. So you will have one buyer out of 10 who would say, I want to get my own, which is fine as well. But then you save yourself as an agent for a building and pest in opening up the house 5-6 times for 5-6 different buyers. And, you know, you just waste your time basically.
Absolutely. So in terms of the inspectors, as we were talking, you've got a criteria before they are added to your panel of inspectors. Can you just talk us a little bit, just so that, I guess, from an independence of the objectiveness of the report, it is quite, you know, independent advice?
Look, obviously, when you, as a buyer, if you go get your own, or if you're an agent, you need to really make sure that you're getting your reports through a licensed building and pest inspector. That's the number one thing. With our platform, we actually have a separate team who onboards inspectors, and we make sure that they are obviously qualified, insured, and we ask them for their certificates, everything, to be onboarded before they get their first job. So that's a very important part, because anyone can say, oh, I can do your building and pest report, but are they actually insured? Are they actually licensed? So yeah, that's a major part of buyers buying their own report. And with us, the criteria is definitely, like I said, we check their certificate, we check their insurances, and if they're qualified or not. So we just make sure we give you the best.
Absolutely. And the buyers, they have that sort of assurity that this is an independent person that's had, quality, and they are putting their name on a report.
Exactly.
And they want to be able to make sure that they're providing you independent advice. So if there is ever a doubt that a vendor's got their own report, it could be biased. It's not, because it is an independent report.
Look, the conflict of interest part was ages ago. I don't find that as much with agents or saying, oh, it's a vendor report. I used to get that a lot like 5 years ago, but now I think it's just an old school concept, because at the end of the day, all they care about, the buyers, is they're paying a little bit of amount. The report is ready, saving their time and just taking a decision. I don't think any buyer would say, oh, I don't want a $50 report or a $100 report. I want to pay $500. Yeah, no one says that. Everyone wants to save the last dollar. And plus also qualified inspectors doing your work. So you're known, before your bid is known, we're doing the work. They know that we have our own insurance on top of inspectors being insured. But in saying that, some buyers say, look, I've downloaded this report through the vendor, I want to go get my own, which is fine, you can do that. But then I don't think personally an inspector would put anything down in the report which is not true, or would do a different work for a vendor or a buyer, because at the end of the day, if something is wrong in the report, the buyer can make the claim against the inspector. So they are aware of that.
So that should definitely give the buyer a lot of confidence at the end of the day.
That these are all legitimate and qualified personnel that are making these reports, making it available for them. Now, in terms of the sellers, so vendors, so we love that concept of being able to identify the problems before they become a problem and derail the sale. Let's talk about the benefits for a seller.
Look, honestly, I think that, like the other problem, conflict of interest, this is an old school problem as well, which I don't see it as much, where the vendors say, oh, it's not my problem, I don't want to, it's the buyer's job. No, I think these days the vendors do care about it, because before you put your property on the market, you want to get a building and pest report. You want to fix whatever needs to be fixed. And then you show the buyers that, okay, I've made an effort, I've fixed everything. And now this is the service you're providing you. So basically, what is the concept of selling? You want to attract buyers. You don't want to push them away, right? Yeah. And how do you attract them? You attract them by having everything ready, easy, simple, through the agent as well as the vendor. I do think it's the agent's, job kind of to say to the vendor, I want one done, so please make sure that this is part of your marketing, or etc. But I think explain the benefits. I think the benefit for the seller definitely is quicker process for them. They get their money straight away, because you don't have to wait for 5-10 days for the buyers to do their own. And we're not talking about one buyer. If you don't have one ready, then there's 6 interested buyers. They're all going and getting their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way-
And you have to open up the house 5-6 times as well.
yeah, as you said.
offline, which
Yeah,
becomes a
exactly.
bit of a nuisance as well.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
makes it easier for the seller to identify what the potential problems could be before they become an issue for the sale,
Yeah.
and address them and get that report fixed as well. We've had that happen. If there's been something that's been identified in the report, it's been addressed, the report's been updated. So when the time comes for the purchasers to download it, it is the more recent report. And for the buyers as well, instead of spending $500 per property, they're
They
spending
want to just download what's available. And
Yeah.
also on average with our numbers with Before You Bid, they went up on average on from 2.5 downloads to 3.3 downloads per property, which tells you that buyers are downloading these reports. They want it to be ready rather than going and Googling a company. And, sometimes you're going to the real estate agent to buy a house, you expect them to just tell you everything. Okay, this, you need this is available, etc. A list.
100%. And whenever they choose an independent building inspector, how do you know what the experience is?
Yeah,
where they pick
exactly.
from
What
as
are
well?
they-
So it's the same thing.
Yeah,
This is
so
being heavily recommended.
If it's been done.
Yeah, or if it's licensed or not. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's a massive part, because they could say anything. And that's your report and you've paid for it. And then you find out 2 weeks later when you want to fix something, oh, that wasn't even the case.
The building inspector didn't pick it up.
Yeah. And obviously as a buyer, you want to know if there's timber activity, if there's pest, work happening, if there's anything major that you're putting your money in that will cost you heaps and heaps. So it'll probably cost the vendor $150 or $500, anything from $150 to $500, to make sure they are being as, genuine and transparent with their property as possible.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Well,
There you go. So it's advantages for buyers, sellers,
It's a
agent.
no-brainer
An agent is getting the deal done quicker.
to be able to do that. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that's what I think. I think I'm here educating you. It's really a smart process. It's a nice, simple process, and I've seen the difference though. I've seen people adapting to it, so it is definitely making a change.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, any final words before we finish off?
I just think it's so easy. Property buying is not that difficult. So just, everyone should have it easy. Get your due diligence. Don't jump into anything. And not that I'm an agent and I can give any advice, but it's just so simple. But Before You Bid, you can contact us anytime if you have any questions or you would like a report. Happy to help.
Thank you very much for watching. And if there are any questions afterwards as well, feel free to send them through. Happy to answer them for you. Thank you very much for joining us, Sabeen. A very informative, jam-packed session of 13 minutes. So we've covered a lot in the 13 minutes. So thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Yeah.